Curiosity, bewilderment. That was the only real emotion running through the minds of the dragons in the nest as they watched a human male, seemingly out of nowhere, just waltz in the door and start looking at them. The human was lucky that this was Barkwood dragon territory and not any other, else he would have been eaten outright. It had been nearly an hour since he wandered into the nest area with nary a sign, unarmed and with no escort, and just stood around taking notes. One of the younglings approached, eager to prove his capability to his elders, and stood to defense. The human just ignored him. Then, after a time, approached the youngling with a modicum of curiosity. An hour of silence was suddenly broken when the human finally spoke. Open your mouth and say, "Ah, please," the human asked. The youngling looked confused, bewildered. Out of sheer shock, he complied and gently opened his jaw to the human. "Oh my..." The human wandered closer and started poking around in the dragon's mouth. This guy either had no fear, or he was really interested in something. The human looked around inside the dragon's maw. Although a youngling, he had a full set of razor-sharp teeth, but wasn't ready to breathe the fire his people were so famed for. The human used a set of tools he had with him, a small mirror and a large mirror on a long stick, along with a few others. The human stepped away, gently using a hand to tap the youngling's jaw, signaling he could close his mouth now. "Pardon me, dear boy, but do you mind if I clean your teeth up a bit? I can't see what I'm working with here," the human asked with a smile. Okay," the youngling replied. "Oh, excellent. Get comfy and open wide. This will feel a bit minty. You aren't allergic or responsive to mint or menthol, are you?" the human asked, putting his bag on the ground. No, at least I don't think so." "Fantastic. This will tingle a bit. Where did I put that brush?" The human procured a brush from his bag with very fine but very firm bristles made of a high-quality straw of some kind, along with a water skin. The water skin contained a thick blue gel that he applied to the brush and signaled for the youngling to open his mouth again. Using the brush, he carefully scrubbed the dragon's teeth and mouth, carefully using various techniques to brush the dragon's teeth. After about 10 minutes, the human pulled away, offering the beast a bucket of water. "All right, done. Use this to rinse and spit it out. Swish it around in your cheeks, then spit. Do not swallow it. That's bad for you." The human handed the bucket to him. The youngling wasn't quite used to his sea legs yet, and awkwardly stood up on his hind legs, grabbing the bucket. He wasn't used to the concept quite yet, and shook his head aggressively after globbing the bucket of water, then spitting it out the cave door. The youngling returned and sat down as ordered. The human resumed his digging in the dragon's mouth and seemed to be satisfied. "I see no serious damage or issues. Do you dragons regrow your teeth forever like sharks?" he asked. "We do. Removing broken or degraded teeth is a pain, though." One of the elders spoke up in response. "Well, I can help with that." The human moved out and gave a salute as he introduced himself. "Dr. Karl Harden, orthodontist. I am a doctor that caters to healthcare related to people's teeth. Now that introductions are out of the way, come down here and let's take a look at those chompers." The elder dragon, his head the size of a house, leaned down and gently laid his jaw on the floor, opening his gaping maw. Karl put on a mask made of cloth and laden with various herbs and flower essences to cover the overpowering stench of rotting, charred flesh. He stepped into the dragon's maw and got to work, checking teeth and gums, gently tapping on some of the child-sized teeth in front of him, and carefully regarded each one. After a few minutes, he walked back out and signaled for the mouth to close. "Right then. I see several cavities, deformities, and some damage. There's also one dead tooth in there that has to come out. Looks like it's cracked and stuck, so a new tooth can grow in there. Probably hurts a bit too, judging by how you flinched when I touched it," Karl said as he moved to the side, looking the great beast in the eye as he spoke. "All right then." The dragon regarded the human for a minute, his tongue flicking about shortly before a minor flinch of pain. "Your suggestion?" "Okay, let me think," Karl said, rifling through his bag. "These should help." He grabbed several vials of a purple liquid and presented them. "All right, open wide. Let's get that tooth out." The elder opened wide and allowed Karl to put his mask back on and walk in. Karl splashed one of the vials directly on the tooth, then stood waiting for a few moments. After this, he gently tapped on it. The dragon offered no resistance or note of pain, and Karl nodded his head, satisfied, and headed back out again towards his bag. The elder dragon flopped his mouth and tongue, now aware his mouth was numb. Blablfleur fluth, the elder beasts tried to say. Don't talk, just keep open. That vial was full of a potion I had a mage make for me. It dulls the mouth and gets rid of pain so I can work more easily. And you also feel nothing. It does, however, make your tongue and mouth numb, so you sound very silly if you want to talk. Open up, let's do this. Karl brandished a set of sharpened, strangely curved meat hooks in his hands and tightened his face mask. Reluctantly, the dragon opened his mouth again, wary of the new tools in the human's hands, and shivered a bit as Karl walked in. Karl took a second vial and emptied its contents around the base of the tooth and waited momentarily. He gently gave the tooth a nudge, and satisfied it had loosened up, he used the meat hooks to get good leverage, then heaved a mighty pull and yanked the child-sized thing out. It landed on the dragon's tongue, and Karl dragged it outside. Karl quickly tossed the blackened tooth to the side and quickly moved back in, tossing another vial of strange blue liquid where the tooth once stood. The wound closed quickly, cleaning any residue left over from Karl's work, creating a seal around a new tooth that was slowly growing directly underneath where the old tooth was. Karl quickly walked out and let the elder dragon breathe. All right, give it a minute and let your mouth return to normal, then give a good blast, short one. Should clean the residue out, Karl said as he moved toward the cavern entrance and set up some kind of makeshift target. The elder dragon collected himself for a few moments and then let out a large but controlled burst of flame from his maw, vaporizing the target and letting out a burst of flame from the cave's entrance. The elder dragon smacked his lips quizzically and lapped his tongue about in his mouth for a few moments. I'm still going to have to properly clean that mouth out and brush your teeth, but at least that took care of your biggest problem before that thing got infected, Karl said, as he pointed out the worst bits on the removed tooth. The dragons looked at him carefully for a few moments. Up until this point, humans, elves, dwarves, and orcs held nothing save animosity or simple hatred towards dragons. This guy just randomly waltzed in, got to work, and potentially saved an elder from a rather horrible time. One dragon, an adult, a father with his brood on the way, turned from the room and stomped his way down a cave passage. Karl began to clean his tools and pack his things when the same dragon reappeared holding a claw full of gold coins, which he offered to Karl. Payment for services. It's only fair, the dragon explained. Karl simply smiled, taking 5 gold coins out of hundreds that were there. I only get paid for work I actually did. This covers everything. In the meantime, I shall need to return to my home and gather up some equipment. Need more brushes, more potions, more toothpaste. As a matter of fact, do you know of the cataban tree? Of course. It grows like weeds around the mountains, the youngling said, stomping over to Karl's side. Oh, excellent. That tree has a rather potent effect. My own king uses it to help with bad breath some days. Grab some of its leaves or branches and chew on them. The taste is rather awful, but it should clean your teeth out a bit and lessen any pain you have. The sap the tree makes is the very same that was used to make the potion to numb your mouth. I shall be back in a few days with my assistant and some better equipment. I aim to finish what I started. Karl gave the dragons a bow and made his way back down the mountain to his practice. The dragons, on the other hand, began hastily moving around to collect cataban trees, with the older and larger dragons in the clan ripping whole trees out at their roots, then chewing on them. Younger dragons flew out to other dragon clans, giving them the full story of what exactly went on.
King Norhal V looked carefully at the document shown to him and his brow furrowed. Seriously? He asked, peering at his subordinates. Seriously, his head mage said. The king laid his head in his hands and groaned in annoyance. This can't be true. There's no way something this stupid. There's just no way. I am afraid, Your Majesty, it's about as true as it gets. Stupid, but true. Humanity has always been a freak of nature, but even for a human, this goes beyond the damn pale. We're screwed. The king sighed in annoyance and rested his chin in his hands. So if I am understanding this, humans had a thing called a dentist. Then the dentist went to the dragons and pulled out their teeth. The dragons liked this, and suddenly the human kingdoms have a full alliance with the dragons because of this. The head mage spoke, combing through various documents. Apparently so. The humans essentially became the most powerful and wealthy of us all because some guy likes helping people keep their teeth clean. The king responded, taking a sip of his wine. Sounds normal for humans. Actually, this isn't the craziest thing they ever did. I'm surprised they didn't kill the sun or something to stay in bed for a few more hours. It's surprising it's not something worse. So, what do? We follow their example. We send an envoy and do the only thing that actually seems to work. Engage them in polite conversation. It worked for humans, why not elves? The king chugged the last of his wine down.